On today's Locked On Auburn, we will chat with Corbin Smith with Locked On Seahawks to talk about Austin Davis becoming an OC for the Auburn Tigers. Then I'll chat about Auburn basketball's win over Murray State. Quite the statement. Then we will hear from Auburn point guard Zep Jasper, conversation I had with him from earlier this week. All right here on Locked On Auburn.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Got a special guest going into the NFL channel of the Locked On Podcast Network, Corbin Smith, host of Locked On Seahawks. Thanks for taking a few minutes to hop over here at Locked On Auburn. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Pretty crazy with the postponement of the Seahawks game. They're getting ready to play a Tuesday night game, which is still really weird saying.
Very
but
weird.
It's a lot of madness, but I guess it's fun madness, so to speak.
Yep. That's cool. That's cool, man. So obviously Auburn kind of made some news going into the NFL to get the Seattle Seahawks quarterbacks coach, Austin Davis. Spent a few years up there in Seattle. Sounds like a lot of folks within the Seattle organization really thinks highly of him. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Austin Davis.
Well, first, let's look at his NFL background. This is a guy that did start a few games for the Rams, got a few opportunities to play for a few other teams during his NFL career. He lasted longer than most quarterbacks do, even though he didn't have all the physical traits that you were looking for. Big reason why: great football IQ. He's got a real great head on his shoulders. Always has been viewed as a potential coach down the road if he was interested in doing that. And when the Seahawks decided, I believe it was the 2019 season, that they decided that they were going to move forward with Geno Smith as the backup instead of Austin Davis, Davis decided at that point that, you know what, I'm done playing. I'm going to move into coaching. The Seahawks threw him right onto their staff, and he immediately became a difference maker for them and vaulted up to the quarterback coaching position. Russell Wilson has incredible respect for him. I don't know if there's anybody in the organization that's more disheartened by him leaving. I mean, obviously, he's excited for his friend and former backup behind him to have this opportunity, but at the same time, not exactly excited about losing his quarterback coach. Those two have developed a really tight rapport, and they've worked well together for the last several seasons, whether they were teammates or now coach with starting quarterback. Just has a really great sense of the game of football. And this will be an interesting test for him because he's been involved with their game planning and things of that nature, but he hasn't been calling plays.
Right.
He's a quarterback, so he understands that aspect of the game, but it's a different game when you're the one that's making those play calls from the sideline. And so I think he's going to be very good in this position. I think that he's got a great head on his shoulders, really understands the game. A lot of times those backup quarterbacks really are catered well to being coaches. And so I think you look at his demeanor, this is a guy that I think has players coach qualities to him. Guys like to work with him. Very smart football mind. It's going to be a challenge for him going down to the SEC first time as a play caller, but he feels like he's ready for this opportunity. And you talk to Pete Carroll, you talk to Russell Wilson, and they think that he's going to have immediate success. And I think that the ceiling for this guy is incredibly high. And who knows how things play out at Auburn, but I could see him being an offensive coordinator in the NFL at some point. So Tigers Nation should be excited about that possibility.
Yeah, and I think most folks are. I think most Auburn folks are excited about this move. Still kind of up in the air if he will be calling plays or not. Some reports saying that head coach Brian Harsin may want to call plays, so maybe they'll ease him into it. Really interested to see what all that exactly looks like. He's been a report came out saying he will be coordinating the offense, whatever that means. But you covered him as a player, and you mentioned he goes straight from being a player to going on the coaching staff. Is that a common thing we see from backup quarterbacks in the NFL? Obviously, you're way more in tune to what's happening from a personnel standpoint in the league than I am. That sounds unusual to me. That's a pretty rare occurrence, right?
I don't know that it's necessarily rare, but it's not common. It's kind of in that mid-ground. Trying to remember the quarterback's name. I played at Northwestern he's on the Chiefs staff right now. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on it, but he came right before Trevor Siemian at Northwestern. And he's currently on the Chiefs staff, and he was actually being thrown around as a candidate the Seahawks might look at for their offensive coordinator job last year. And so that would be another example, but I can't think of any others off the top of my head of a player that as soon as he was done playing just jumped right into a high-profile NFL coaching job. I'm sure there's been a few other instances where it has happened. A lot of times, again, these backup quarterbacks, they might not be on the field, but they're on the sideline. They're with the coaches. So in an odd way, they're more immersed in that than what the starting quarterback is that's on the field. So it's not weird to see a backup quarterback quickly become a coach and excel in that and then get this kind of opportunity like Austin Davis has. But I don't think it's necessarily common practice either. And even when you do have backup quarterbacks like that, usually they like to take a year or two after they're done playing before they get back into the league. And you see that in a lot of positions too. Guys want to have a little bit of a break, but in Austin Davis's case, he still wanted to be around the Seahawks, but he's like, you know what? I didn't make it as a backup quarterback. I've been around with several teams. The time now is right for me to transition into coaching. The Seahawks were very excited to put him on their staff.
Do you think there's any kind of nuggets as far as, what Pete Carroll and this coaching staff does offensively that he can take to the college ranks? Do you think will make sense?
Well, I don't know how much he's going to be implementing what the Seahawks do into Auburn's offense, just because we're talking about two different types of systems. Seattle still runs that West Coast style offense.
Neither have a good offensive line, though.
Well, that's been the biggest issue is trying to protect Russell Wilson. Obviously.
Right, yeah, sure.
That limits your play calling ability. But I think this is going to boil down to more when you look at Davis's fit. I think what maybe intrigues me the most, as I said, he's got a great football mind. He's going to be able to get acclimated to whatever the base offense is going to be. And he's going to be able to put his own spin on that. There's no question in my mind he's going to be able to do that because of his football intellect. But I mentioned it earlier. I think what might be the most exciting thing for Auburn right now, you're getting a very likable guy that I think players are going to want to play hard for. And that had to be something that jumped out to Brian Harsin when they were doing this interviewing process. This is a very calm, collected, very competitive guy. Don't twist that. He wants to win. Austin Davis has always been very competitive, but I think that he has that player's coach DNA. He can still be tough when he needs to be, but players are going to want to play hard for him. And I think that that's the biggest battle when you're talking about college and NFL kids for different reasons, obviously different age groups and stuff. But that's really a big part of the battle. So I think Austin Davis is going to be able to excel at that. You talk to everybody that played with him and nothing but positives. As a coach, he's drawn raving reviews from Russell Wilson, a number of the other players who have seen the difference he's made for them. And so I think at Auburn, he's got a chance to be highly successful, not just because of his football brains, but because of his personality and his ability to reach different types of players.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned his personality because from a coaching perspective, obviously that's important. You need to motivate, but now that he's at the college level, there's a different aspect of it. You got to go and get your players. It's not like the draft. You got to go out and get dudes and convince them to play in your system. You think that's a fit? I mean, I know at some point it's either you can recruit or you can't. That kind of seems to be a thing you either have or you don't. But surely going into a living room of an 18-year-old kid that watches Russell Wilson every Sunday, and it's like, I've been able to coach this guy for 3+ seasons. That's got to be something that is going to help him, right?
Yeah, I think that, recruiting, that's always the biggest if when you're talking about a NFL coach going to college. Are they going to be able to contribute in that capacity? Again, I think his personality is going to help him in that regard. But what kind of selling point is that? I've been coaching Russell Wilson for the last 3 years, and I was his backup before that. So I've been with Russell Wilson for the last 5 or 6 years, and I can get you to that level. That's the kind of stuff that I would be selling if I'm Austin Davis. And so I think that maybe that's another thing that was playing into Brian Harsin's mind is, hey, I can get a guy that has coached Russell Wilson the last 3 years. That's a great recruiting pitch. In a conference that's got a bunch of really outstanding blue blood programs, that's how you get out on top, is little differences like that. And so, again, we don't know because he hasn't been in this position. We don't know how he's going to handle that, but he's got one heck of a recruiting chip there with that connection and coaching Russell Wilson, and that should play as a beneficiary for this football program.
I certainly hope so. Corbin, thank you so much for your time as always, man. Tell folks listening and watching about Locked On Seahawks and, of course, all of your other work that you have going on.
So you can follow me on Twitter at Corbin Smith NFL. You can visit SeahawkMaven.com with Sports Illustrated. Got daily articles and videos on there. And, of course, Locked On Seahawks, Locked_Seahawks on Twitter. You can listen to us 5 days a week with my co-host, Rob Rang, who our Auburn people should know pretty well from his college scouting background. So we always have a lot of interesting college nuggets thrown into our show, especially during the offseason.
I love it. Thank you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk about that Auburn basketball win in just a moment. Today's show brought to you by our friends at NetSuite. This is it, the putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours, but on your backswing, the hat falls over your eyes. You can't see. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software. To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked. That is at netsuite.com/locked. The Auburn Tigers defeat Murray State, the Murray State Racers, 71-58, which really was just a pretty dominating performance from start to end for the Tigers. And it's funny, going into this, I did not feel good about it at all. Murray State's a good basketball team, and over the last few times Auburn has played Murray State, the 2 times ago it was at Murray State. The Auburn had to go to overtime to win that one. They had John Morant, so it's a little bit different. Then the last time they took on the Racers, Auburn won by 2, and so it's just like, can they keep kind of playing with these guys in a week where Alabama lost to a team they shouldn't have? Davidson, Samford beat Ole Miss. So it just, to me, it felt like this was kind of a game that could be an issue. But I think Auburn struggling against St. Louis and really taking every second of that 40 minutes to pull ahead and beat them on the road this past weekend was something. And then obviously the return of Allen Flanagan, a big storyline. So they were not going to let Murray State sneak up on them, and props to them. And kind of interesting scoring for this, really interesting stats in general. But 2 Tigers led with 13 points. Walker Kessler, to me, is the player of the game. He was incredible. 13 points, 5 of 7 from the floor. He made 1 of his 2 threes, which is exciting. I don't love all the threes that he makes, but if he can make 1 of 2 every night, that's fantastic. But 7 rebounds, 7 blocks. Auburn had 11 blocks on the night. 7 of them were from Kessler, which you have to love. And then Wendell Green Jr., the transfer guard, starter at the beginning of the season, moved to back up, to back up KD because it was kind of what was best for the team. And man, over the last 2 games, he has just come off the bench and really led this team. He was really, really impressive. And obviously, when you make a half-court shot like he did, what an incredible moment. And you love to see it for Wendell Green Jr. A big thing that I've talked about with this team time and time again is they've got to make layups. Can they consistently make layups? Because that has not been what we have seen from this team. And I thought with Allen Flanagan coming back, and though, very limited, how much did Allen play? Allen played 12 minutes. And I'd love to know if it was a closer game, how much he would have played. But they were 12 of 21 on layups. That's ridiculous. Auburn's hovering around this 50% mark over the last 5 or 6 games with layups. And that's not how you win basketball games. And with conference play starting in a week, that's something you want to fix. I think that's something that Allen Flanagan will help. But just still, you look around the conference, and there's just been trap game after trap game that's turned into storylines throughout the SEC. And now that the non-conference slate is done, with the exception of Auburn is taking part in the SEC Big 12 Challenge, Auburn had no hiccups. They had a few scares, but as far as actually, it resulting in a loss, Auburn avoided all of those. Because I think that double overtime loss to UConn in the Bahamas, I don't think anyone's scoffing at that, especially the way that they played. I mean, UConn's a really good basketball team. So this is a squad that, with all the storylines of, hey, they may start slow, Hey, a lot of transfers. Hey, these folks haven't played together. Couple in the fact now that Bruce Pearl was suspended for 2 games. And the noise with the NCAA. And thankfully that's done. With all that said, going into the season, your Tigers only lost 1 game. They're 11-1 going into conference play. And they've got a chance. If they beat LSU, you got to say this is a top 10 team. And looking at LSU prices for tickets, it's crazy. It's getting close to where I was looking. It's getting close to Iron Bowl football ticket prices, which is crazy, which is absolutely crazy. But look, Auburn holding Murray State to 58 is fun. I mean, this team loves to play defense. And we'll talk to Zep Jasper in just a moment to kind of get his thoughts on all of that. But Murray State seems to always have a dude, right? I mentioned John Morant when Auburn played them 2 times ago, but Tevin Brown was a really, really impressive player for the Racers. And he had 22 points, 8 of 15 shooting. Outside of Tevin Brown, you look at the rest of Murray State's team. They were 11 of 41 from the floor. That's 26.8%. I don't care how many points somebody scores. If Auburn can do that to a full roster minus 1 dude, they can handle anybody. And it's crazy, too. You look at it, and it's like no one outside of Kessler really shot well. Katie Johnson with 3 of 6. Jabari was 5 of 11. Zep was 0 for 5. Cambridge was 2 of 5. Green was 4 of 7. You take that. But Jalen Williams was 4 of 10. I think he was Auburn's leading scorer at halftime. And so it's just you look and you go down the line. Alan Flanagan is 1 of 6. You're totally fine with him taking all those shots because you got to get him back in the groove. But this team is doing this, and they're still not being efficient from a scoring standpoint. And I think some of that has to do with shot selection. That's been a big criticism of this basketball team is inconsistencies with shot selection. And I don't like, I'll say it again. I don't like Kessler shooting threes. I think it's a big part of it. But still, this is a team that if they can heat up just a little bit, there's plenty of room for them to kind of get it more efficient with shooting the basketball. The sky is the limit for this team. And that should get you pumped up. That should get you excited. So, hey, in just a moment, we'll hear from Zep Jasper. Note, this is a conversation we had earlier in the week. So if some of the questions don't fully make sense, he talks about getting ready for Murray State and how he was, he's not ready to look on to Christmas yet because of Murray State. But still, I think the approach to this game is still an important storyline because this team is focused, dialed in. I don't think this is just coach speak or media speak. I think this is a team that's zoomed in, focused on every single game. That's coming up in just a moment. BetOnline has you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the college bowl season. And with the NFL, of course, going towards the playoffs, BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all sports action this season. Head to the website, betonline.ag. Use your mobile device, whatever. Sign up today to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you have to do is use promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. betonline.ag, where the game starts. And joining us now, Auburn guard Zep Jasper. Zep, congrats on the big win going over to St. Louis. Pretty good team. I get y'all a quad 1 win to add to that resume of that non-conference schedule. But you guys were down by like double digits with 9 minutes left, and you fought back and won. Well, what kind of went into that?
What kind of went in that is I think 2 key pieces to the table. Walker Kessler and Wendell Green. I believe that those was the 2 reasons why we came back, and they brought the intensity up, and that pick and roll was the key to success of winning that game. Them 2 worked together on that pick and roll, and it opened up the game. The last 8 minutes of the game, and we started guarding the ball screens better at the end of the game, and they start getting a little bit rattled and we start forcing turnovers at the end of that game. And last 2 minutes of the game, we made great decisions. Like I say, Wendell Green was reading the ball screens, getting it to open man, creating for others, and Walk was on those dump downs. He was finishing those dunks, and that's the main reason we won that game. I give hats off to those two guys, and Leo Berman for stepping into that role of making those threes, and just being able to fight and come back. And you don't get many walk-ons that that's going to be in the game in late situations. But I give hats off to Leo for stepping in and taking the key role at the end of the game.
So Lior is fascinating to me because like you said, he's a walk-on that's playing really relevant minutes at key parts of basketball games. And not only is he in there, in crunch time, he wants the basketball. I mean, what kind of, what does that say to you about his personality and approach to basketball?
It says a lot. It says he's not in the moment. He don't fear nothing. That's my biggest takeaway on him. Being a walk-on, having that confidence, it means the most because it shows, 1 through 11, even him, he'd come off the bench and score. He don't care who's guarding him. He's going to show you why he belongs on his team and why he can play with us.
What's it like having, you mentioned 1 through 11, and then, Allen Flanagan's going to be back any day now, it seems. What's it mean when you look at this team, and you mentioned the two guys that stepped up to help get that St. Louis win, but any night, any 10 or 11 of those guys can step up and be the reason Auburn wins. What's it like being on a deep team like that?
What it's like being on a deep team, it's like you always got to be ready. Everybody might not have the best game of their life each day, but we depend on each other. It's not just a one-man team. Like I said, I probably didn't play the last 7 or 8 minutes, me and Devin. But I just wanted to clap my teammates on, and try to help them win in some type of way. I love the way Wendell Green, played those last 8 minutes. Me watch him out there, him facilitating, him getting guys open, him making us, give us a fight. I love that. And, it shows, how important it is 1 through 11 with this team. It just shows that, always be ready. You never know what's going to happen. Even when we down, we got to fight. Even when we up, we got to fight. So that's what this team, we got a lot of fight in us, and we never going to give up. And it shows each game, and, that we was down 11 points, second half.
Right.
We told ourselves we're going to fight back. We're going to come back. We've been in this position before, and let's try to make it happen.
I love the spunk that you guys have as a team, and y'all aren't afraid to talk a little smack along the way. I love that, especially the social media aspect side of it. Wendell Green coming out and video in the stands after the game saying, like, you guys left early. What's up with that? I love all of that. Is that something that's kind of talked about in the locker room at all?
Well, that's nothing really that's talked about in the locker room. I think it's players. Certain one of us, like certain players, we got different personalities. So, some of us might take it to social media and play around and joke around.
Sure.
See the fans, saying, they had a lot of fans there. And they fans, was ready to run on court if they was ready to win. It was their biggest game since like 2014, 2013. We was the highest ranked team coming there in a couple years. So, it was a lot of fans there, and they had a good crowd. And it's like, dang, they was against us. It was like the whole world against us right now. If you're watching the game, you're like, I hope Auburn lose. So it's like you see all those fans, and you see them leave after the game. It's like, you waving bye-bye. It's like where y'all at? Where y'all at now?
Right.
Y'all was trash talking. Y'all was hype, during the game, and it's like y'all was against Auburn now, but where y'all at now? Y'all gotta respect us. And I just think we take social media and that type of perspective, but we always respect the teams we play. Like I said, we give hats out to St. Louis. They're a very well coached team, great coach, great guards, great big man. Great team. They're gonna make a run in the tournament, I think.
Sure.
I think they're the top 3 team in their conference. VCU, St. Bonaventure in St. Louis. And like I said, I just give all my respect to the coach and their players.
Yeah, I would not be shocked if they represented the A-10 in the NCAA tournament at the end of the year. That would not surprise me at all. I thought they were a pretty good squad. So, Zep, it's Christmas time. What are some Christmas traditions that you have?
I really don't have no Christmas traditions.
Okay.
I like to finish off this one game streak and try to focus on that before I go home.
Yeah.
Because I like that's more important than my Christmas at the moment, because coming back from Christmas, things are gonna spark up.
Oh yeah.
Keep the momentum going, going against a great Murray State team. So, I really just focus on those things and like to spend a couple time with my family, my friends, and the people who support me. I just like to go to my city and show love as much as I can, because that means the most to me when they support me. So I come home and spend time with kids, spend time with, just regular people. Like I said, if they support me, I support them in whatever they do.
I love that.
Always give back and try to be his best man I can be.
I think that's fantastic. You got a favorite Christmas movie?
I probably would say my favorite Christmas movies. I got two.
Okay, that's fine.
Friday after next, and Home Alone. I can't go without Home Alone. I know everyone in the world know Home Alone. That's been a movie I've been a kid since I always liked Home Alone. So those are some great movies that I like, and I also like The Grinch for the kids. I still enjoy The Grinch. I thought about watching The Grinch like 2 days ago, but I said, but I don't want to get in the Christmas period yet. So I'll probably watch it tonight or another day or so.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Zep, always appreciate your time. As always, best of luck, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And then, yeah, SEC plays right around the corner. We'll talk again. Next week.
No doubt, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much to Zep Jasper for joining us for a few minutes. Always enjoy our chats with him. That does it for today's edition of the show. Tomorrow's show on YouTube will be a little different, significantly shorter, doing something different there. But on the audio side, I did a roundtable with Mike G and C-Dub with the War Report, JG Tate with Auburn Rivals, and Chase with Infinite Auburn, a YouTube channel. We did a roundtable. We'll do 10 through 6 of the top storylines in 2021, and then we'll drop 5 through 1. I'll drop 5 through 1 in audio form on Sunday. If you want the video form, you got to go to the War Report's YouTube page. We kind of split it up. I'm like, you have the video exclusivity. I'll take the audio. So that's that. Keep an eye out for that this holiday season. And hey, Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll have another fresh show on Monday. We'll see you then. Merry Christmas. This is Locked On Auburn.